Hello, hello. Welcome to Underthinking, the channel where I don't think I'm always overthinking. I think sometimes other people are underthinking. I really like to talk about mindset and a lot of social norms on this channel. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about something that I think is kind of a social norm that I just don't agree with. Honestly, most social norms I don't really agree with. Not all of them, but most of them I really don't, especially when people just follow them because they're social norms without actually thinking for themselves if they line up with their morals, their values, and their own thoughts. You know what I mean? Anyway, so one of the social norms that I don't really agree with is when people talk about matching energies. And so I see this sometimes on dating apps, but I also think it's kind of common on social media that sometimes people say, like, I just match energy. So whatever you do, I will just match it. Whether you're talking about dating, friends, people that you're just chatting with on social media, colleagues, anything like that. I believe much more in having integrity and having character and being consistent within your own morals, values, and actions and beliefs. I believe in that way more than I do matching someone else, whether it's their vibe or their intentions or whatever. I think that sometimes people mean the whole match your energy thing, like be excited if they're excited about you, or if they're being kind of nonchalant, then you be nonchalant about them. And again, I just don't agree with that because I believe in character more. And so if you are someone who is excited when you're dating, then be excited. If you are someone who is kind of just more of a quiet person, then okay, then be that way. And if you realize that some of those characteristics are not helpful, or maybe they are unhealthy in a certain situation, then that might be where you're, kind of learning and growing as an individual person. But I still just don't really see it as match the other person's energy. If they're excited about you, then that's when you should be excited about them. Or if they are nonchalant about you, then you should be nonchalant about them. Or if they only message you once a day, then you're going to message them once a day. And again, if you are nonchalant and they are nonchalant, then okay. But if you are only acting nonchalant because they are acting nonchalant, that's where I kind of go, no. I believe in integrity and character more. I believe in being exactly who you are more. And am I great at this? No. Whenever I talk about any of this stuff, I'm never acting like I'm 100% right all the time. And I'm never acting like I'm perfect at any of this because I'm still a human, right? But I do these videos because I'm always curious of other people's opinions. So I would love to hear your opinions in the comments about this topic of maybe people say that in a way that I'm misunderstanding. Maybe they say it in a different way, but that's just always kind of how I've interpreted it. And when I've heard about it, again, whether it's on a dating app or whether it's, like a coach or something saying it on social media or something like that, and they're kind of giving advice, whenever I see that, I'm always like, no, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. If you're someone who's hyper, then be hyper. If you're someone who dances all the time, then dance all the time. When it's appropriate and healthy, of course, but don't not do it just because someone else is a little more shy. But of course, if you're dating or something, there is compromise. Of course. There is, knowing what setting you're in and doing something appropriate. Of course. There are times that maybe you're doing something unhealthy, and so you learn how to act in a healthier way or a more appropriate way, or something that makes more sense with the timeline you're on or the person that you're with or the situation that you're in. Of course. But again, I still don't see that as matching energy. That I see as just, if you are at church, you're going to be quiet. If you're at a library, you're going to be quiet and respectful, But if you are at Dave and Buster's, then you might be silly and yell while you're playing air hockey. But anyway, so I do think that there's a way to, act appropriate. But that is not going against your integrity and your character. That is just acting appropriate based on the situation or the people that you're with. You are going to speak differently if you are around your colleagues versus your family versus children. You are just going to speak differently, hopefully. It doesn't mean that you're going to change the true characteristics of yourself. It just means that you're going to act appropriately based on the situation. But I'm talking more about the whole matching energy, to me, sounds like people are faking it. And to me, it sounds almost like a defense mechanism of if someone acts uninterested, then I'm just also going to act uninterested. And I see that as no, if someone acts uninterested, but you are interested, but they're just kind of acting uninterested and you're not really totally sure, then talk to them about it. Ask them about it. Ask them questions. Bring it up. because either they're going to ghost you and then it's like, okay, you don't want to be with someone like that anyway, or they're going to tell you straight up, I'm not interested, or they're going to tell you straight up, you know what, I have had a really stressful time the last couple days, but I hear what you're saying and I'm going to, work harder at giving you more attention or whatever it is. And I think that if you don't have that communication, then you're never going to really know. And so matching energies, you might even be matching a fake energy because that person might just be having a hard time, or that person might be acting a certain way based on how they think that you might want to act. And so if you are also just matching energies, then you both literally might be lying to each other at the same time. And I just don't agree with any of that. I really don't. Here, this is a personal example of mine. I don't like to use the word hate, but I hate when people are late, especially for like a first or second or third date. I think it's very disrespectful. I also think it's disrespectful if you are meeting up with a client and being late. I think it's disrespectful if you're going to be late for work or church or anything like that. Obviously, there are exceptions to that rule, right? Obviously, if there's a car crash a mile ahead of you, right? And you did not expect that. Or like you might be late for church because your kid had a meltdown. I totally get those scenarios. But I'm talking about the general idea of if you were going on a first date with someone, be on time, be a couple minutes early, especially again to first dates, second dates, third dates, something like that. I see it as this is your first impression, or my first impression of you. Of course, that's not always how they're always going to be, but sometimes you can get an idea based on the first couple dates of someone, right? And so here's the thing. There are lots of times when I hang out with people who they don't care if you're on time or not. They don't care. And I am not going to match that energy. I'm not going to say, all right, well, then I don't care either, whatever, it's fine. Because it is actually something that I don't like, that I do think is disrespectful, and that I make sure that I'm not late. And it's just a preference of mine. Is it that they are wrong, I'm right? No, it's that we have different preferences. And so I see that as I'm going to be honest about my preference. And if someone else has a different preference, okay, but can you communicate and can you compromise on it? So I just see it as more, if there's something really important to you, then have your integrity about it. Have your own morals, have your own standards. There are always going to be some people who say that your standards are too high, especially if you have any. There are going to be some people who say that they're too high. I don't believe that. That could be maybe another video about standards, because I do believe that if someone's going to make fun of your standards, it's probably because they don't have any, or because they do not live up to yours and they don't want to put the effort into working on themselves. They don't want to even admit that they might have things to work on. And so again, I know that's going off a little bit off topic, but I still see it as being late is something that I really don't like. Of course, it does not mean that I have to be mean about it. Sometimes I have been. I'm going to admit that. It does not mean that I have to. However, it does mean that I'm going to hold those standards. And it does mean that I am going to have that integrity and those kind of characteristics about myself and what I hope for in someone else. And so that can be anything. Again, I think one of the easier examples is being nonchalant, or someone who's really honest and upfront with what they say. I think that that's a really common thing. Oh, well, that person's being nonchalant, so I'll just match their energy. I don't think that that makes sense. I think that if you are also nonchalant, then that might be a really good match that you guys have. If you guys know why you're nonchalant, if you know that it's healthy within your relationship and in your situation, then I think that can be great. But if I'm not nonchalant. If you guys know me, especially if you watch my other channel, Katie Carney, my name's Katie. Hi, by the way. If you watch my other channel, Katie Carney, that I've been doing for years, but even if you've watched some of these videos as well, or my Instagram, or you've met me in real life, I am not a nonchalant person. I'm not one of those easygoing, go with the flow kind of people. I'm not. I am someone who is deliberate. I am someone who's purposeful. I am someone that if I want to make plans, I'm going to try to make plans. I'm someone who, if I want to go somewhere, I'm going to figure out how to go. I'm someone who is just purposeful, I guess I would say. And of course, that's not always the opposite of nonchalant, and it's not always the opposite of easygoing or going with the flow, but I would still say they're generally at least semi-different. And so, yeah, sometimes if I'm out and the person's like, oh, do you want to go to this bar? You want to go to this restaurant? You want to go here, here, here? You want to go to bowling, Dave and Buster's? I'll be like, yeah, whatever, that's fine. I can be kind of easygoing, go with the flow in those situations. But where we're meeting and at what time, no. I'm not go with the flow. Once we've met, okay, we can figure that out then, or if I'm going to a friend's house and we're like, oh, I don't know what we're going to do yet, but this is when we're going to meet. That's different. I want to know when we're going to meet, but after that, okay, I can go with the flow, but that's the kind of person that I am. And the thing about it is I like those traits about me. And so I think that that's where this actually gets even more serious. I like those traits about me. I like that I'm purposeful. I like that when I make plans, I mean it. And again, am I perfect at that? No. But that is generally what I do, and that is my actual beliefs in things. We all fail sometimes. We all make mistakes sometimes, but those are my beliefs in things. And there are lots of people who their beliefs are a little bit more nonchalant. They're a little bit more like, oh yeah, around 7, I'll meet you there around 7. And they really wouldn't care if someone showed up at 7:10. They really wouldn't. I am someone who would care. Again, not every single time, but especially the first few dates, and especially if there's no real reason, then I would care. And I think that that's where it just becomes a little bit different, where I'm not going to match energy. I'm not going to. If we can figure out how to compromise, sure, I think that's healthy. But just because someone else is okay with someone being late, or someone else, whatever, is nonchalant in a certain way or something like that, I'm not going to match energy just to match energy. I will compromise. I will have conversations about it. I will figure out if we can either meet in the middle, or if it's more important to me and less important to the other person, maybe that's one of the things that they can come on my side, and then vice versa in other ways. But I just think the idea of matching energy just to match energy, I think can kind of like give yourself not enough credit about who you are and what your goals are and what your integrity really is and what your character really is. But I do think that, again, being open, being honest, being kind in your communication, I think those are really important. But I still don't think that that means that you're just matching someone else's energy. I think that means that you are being true to yourself and just being honest about that. And if you can find a middle ground or a compromise, then great. But if you can't, and if you're just matching someone's energy just to do it, I almost wonder if you really... And I'm going to say this because I know that I've struggled with this too sometimes. I wonder maybe if you even have enough self-respect to hold your own standards or to have your own integrity. And that maybe you're like, oh, well, if that person just wants this, then I'll just do that. Maybe you're more focused on if they like you versus if you like them. Or maybe you're more focused on if anyone likes you versus if you're actually a good match. And again, I have struggled with that too sometimes. So I get it. And sometimes it's really hard to admit that to ourselves. You know, the whole point of this channel is I'm going to think really deeply about things that maybe most people think pretty surface level about. Because I do think that a lot of people, when they say I'm going to match energy, they might not actually think about what that really means for them, for the other person, for the situation. They might just kind of think, oh, well, if the other person's not going to text me back for a few hours, then I'm not going to text them back for a few hours either. Even though for everyone else, I text them back immediately, but this specific person, I'm not going to. And again, if you are compromising, that's different. But if you're doing it almost out of spite or out of anger, or just to match them so that you think they'll like you more, but you're not actually telling them what your real beliefs are, I don't think that's the healthiest thing to do. And so anyway, I would love to hear your opinions on this topic. Again, I know that I went pretty deep there, and I know that there are even more opinions that I have about this topic that I just didn't mention in this video, but I do want to keep these videos not too long. And so if you have any opinions on this topic, please let me know in the comments. But just generally, I just don't think matching energy, matching vibes just for the sake of doing that is going to benefit you the most. I really don't. I think that maybe you're going to end up maybe settling, or maybe ending up with someone who might not be right for you. Again, that's very different than compromise. Very different than compromise. But just matching energy, I just don't think is the healthiest thing in most occasions. Definitely not 100% across the board, but in most occasions. But anyway, I would love to hear your opinions on this topic in the comments. And also let me know in the comments any other ideas that you want me to talk about, that you kind of want me to like dive deeper on, whether it's like a word that you think is overused, whether it's a phrase that you think people don't use correctly, or whether it's just a social idea that you just maybe don't agree with, or that maybe you do agree with and you want to know my opinions. Please let me know in the comments. But yeah, I guess it's going to be it. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you have a wonderful day. Bye.